Saw 3. After Saw 2 became at the time the highest grossing horror sequel opening weekend and highest grossing opening weekend for Lionsgate, it was inevitable they do another one. But the creators didn't really want to do one, until they were motivated by the passing of Greg Hoffman, who was the guy who funded the first film. So in memorial to him, they decided to make a third film and make it more emotional this time. It should also be noted that Jigsaw went from not even appearing all that much in the first film to being the only thing on the cover. The film begins right at the end of the last film with Eric in the bathroom, which is kind of surprising because when this film was first released, the actor confirmed he wouldn't even be in it. He tries reaching for his gun, he tries to grab it with his boot, and it's empty. So plan B, he even considers sawing his foot off after seeing Gordon's foot, but he ultimately says no to that. So plan C, he finds the toilet lid that Adam used on Zib. This one he actually goes through with and beats his foot into powder and escapes. Then we cut to Carrie from the last two films and she's investigating yet another Jigsaw thing. And we meet Mark Hoffman, of course named after Greg. We cut to flashback about this Jigsaw trap. And Billy explains that essentially he's got to rip out all these chains before the room explodes. And he does, except for one attached to his lower jaw he just cannot get out. And then he blew up. Somehow the windows stayed intact. But Carrie realizes that the room was sealed, so even if he did get all the chains out at time, he would have still exploded. And that's not very Jigsaw, that there's no way to escape. So reviewing the Billy tapes, until it turns out she's being filmed. Damn Google stalking. So she investigates, and then a pig mask gets her. She wakes up in a new trap. Billy explains that she'll get blood-eagled if she doesn't fish for the key. The key she has to fish for is an acid above her. And yeah, she does try to spill at least a little bit of the acid out so she doesn't have to dig an entire hand into it. Which is actually incredibly smart for a movie character. But even after she gets the key, it still doesn't work and she gets blood-eagled. But before that, she actually recognizes someone off screen. That's not very Jigsaw to not get a way out. Then we meet Lynn, who's with the guy who was originally supposed to play OP in the last film. She's bored with life even after doing some successful surgery, and she gets kidnapped by a pig mask, and she wakes up in Jigsaw's lair. And the pig mask turns out to be Amanda. Jigsaw's in pretty rough shape, and Amanda's his caretaker. Lynn notices that he's Dr. Gordon's patient, and telling her to look at him is the only time Jigsaw ever raises his voice. And Amanda straps her with a collar of shotgun shells wired to Jigsaw's heart, so if he dies, then she will too, so she's got to operate. Meanwhile, a guy named Jeff wakes up in a box. He finds a tape that says that eventually he'll come face to face with the person who's responsible for the loss of his kid. Then he KOs himself trying to escape, breaking open the box. And due to flashback, we find out Jeff is incredibly depressed due to the death of his son, and he's neglected essentially everything, especially his daughter. He cherishes his son's stuff and won't let her touch it. He finds a box which has a note, a key, and a photo in it. Just like the last film, we split off into two different stories. Lynn's asking why don't we just send him to a normal hospital, and Amanda's like no. Then Jigsaw has a seizure, which is really hard to watch. Meanwhile, Jeff comes to his first obstacle, in the freezer. This lady ran away after his son was ran over, so he has to choose whether to save her or not, as she gets sprayed with water and slowly freezes to death. And like anyone in this situation, Jeff is conflicted of if he should help her or not, but eventually his emotions get the better of him and he tries saving her, too late. And yeah, she is naked during this, and no, the film doesn't ogle her for it. Then Jeff finds another box with another note, another photo, and this time a singular bullet. Lynn's walking around the Jigsaw lair and finds the reverse bear trap, and she considers harming Amanda and escaping. But then Amanda reminds Lynn that the shotgun shells are quite sensitive and might go off at the slightest tick. And then we get another flashback of Jigsaw painting up and making Billy. A nice note you can see in the background that is the same lair from the first film with the same graffiti. And then Jigsaw setting up Amanda's trap. It's clear that Amanda sees Jigsaw as this kind of father figure who saved her. And in present times, he tells her that there's a letter for her in the drawer. Back with Jeff, he finds Billy laying out much like his kid was, which is kind of messed up. Jeff's next obstacle is he finds a judge who presided over the guy who hit his kid, which he thinks he didn't give the guy enough of a harsh of a sentence. So the thing here is he's got to burn all of his son's plushies to get a key to stop the machine from drowning him in pig guts. Yuck. This is yet another conflict that feels very realistic that Jeff is considering if he should save the judge he doesn't like, but he also has to burn all of his kids' plushies, which are things that he uses to remember his son with and all his happy memories with it. But eventually his emotions get the better of him and he burns the toys, and luckily, unlike the last girl, he actually saves the judge on time. Meanwhile, with Lynn, it's time to operate on Jigsaw. And they show everything. It might be a little too hard to watch for some people. Jigsaw has like a flashback of some woman we don't know. Also, we can see Opie walk by. Jigsaw mumbles, "I love you" to the woman in his imagination, but he says it out loud, which really upsets Amanda. To have never heard "I love you" from her father figure towards her, and assuming that he meant it towards Lynn, and we know from last film she does cut to feel something, and she does this very ritualistic thing. We get a flashback, and it's clear that Amanda has some Stockholm Syndrome with Jigsaw, with him using her as a helping hand. And then plot twist, she was the pig mask who abducted Adam in the first film. And we see a flashback of Jigsaw setting up the trap in the first film, and plot twist, Amanda helped him. Or she casually just tossed the key onto Adam instead of tied the key somewhere, which is why it flushed down. Unfortunately, this was a deleted scene. And it's shown why Jigsaw didn't like Twitch or anything during the first film, is he shoots up some slow-mo right in front of the recovering addict over here. This is definitely a retcon, but given that we know that Amanda worked with Jigsaw in the last film, this is not really that bad of a retcon, because it makes sense. In present times, Jigsaw's surgery went successful. Amanda almost pulls a gun on Lynn, but Jigsaw yells to stop that. Well, not yell, he just kind of tells her off. Which leads to another flashback where Amanda felt really bad about Jigsaw leaving Adam in the bathroom. So she came back and suffocated him. This mercy killing shows why Amanda's different than Jigsaw, because Jigsaw was willing to just leave him there to die. But Amanda can't separate her emotions from this, and she feels bad about it. Back with Jeff and the judge, they find another box, and they uncover the guy who hit his kid, who is just another guy. Which I really like, that it was just another guy who accidentally hit his kid and feels just about as bad for doing it. Any other movie would have built up that Jeff was right, this is a monster who killed his kid on purpose, but no, it was a complete accident and he's just a normal person. The obstacle here is the machine the guy strapped into will keep turning and turning until it snaps his arms, his legs, and eventually his head. And Jeff has to take a bullet to get the key to stop it. This is yet a very emotional trap. And yeah, Jeff does want him to suffer a little for what he did to his kid, and anyone would kind of want to feel that too, but his emotions do get the better of him, and he does try to get the key. Unfortunately, it hits the judge, and the key doesn't work in time, and yeah. Lynn talks with Jigsaw, and it turns out Jigsaw despises murder, showing that he really is a sociopath that doesn't think what he's doing is wrong, because he doesn't consider it murder, which is why he gives his people he traps a way out. He doesn't just directly murder them. Which then starts questioning, why did the traps earlier not have a way out? There's a deleted scene where Lynn tries picking the locks to the doors and then fights Amanda for the key, but it's kind of dumb and let's skip over it, it's a deleted scene. Amanda checks her note, we don't see this but it makes her cry. Then Jigsaw pours some wax over a tape. He tells Amanda to let Lynn go, but Amanda doesn't want to let her go and pulls a gun, which frustrates Jigsaw. And we got another flashback to the end of the last film, where Amanda somehow got a leather jacket, even though she wasn't wearing that at the end of the last film. She was feeling bad about Eric, and then Eric shows up and crawls up and fights her. They get into a tussle, but eventually they go off screen and we don't know what happened to Eric. In modern times, Amanda shoots Lynn, much to Jigsaw's disappointment, and it's revealed that she was Jeff's wife. As he catches her as he walks in, he shoots Amanda. We find out that she was the figure that Carrie recognized, And Jigsaw actually gets very emotional, especially for Jigsaw, at Amanda. As it turns out, all this was her game, her way to prove that she can be Jigsaw number 2, but her emotions got the better of her. Jigsaw even gives a tearful game over to her. And Jeff points the gun that only had the singular bullet at Jigsaw, and he snaps right out of it and goes back to Jigsaw mode and says his final task is to either forgive him or pick up a weapon and strike him. Jeff then picks up a circular saw and strikes Jigsaw's neck, killing him. But before he totally dies, he picks up a tape, the door seal, and the shotgun shells blow off Lynn's head. Jeff sits with his wife's body and plays the tape, giving us our last twist.
I am the person responsible for the loss of your child. I am the only person who knows where your daughter is. She only has a limited supply of air, and if you want to get her back, you'll have to play a game.
Which is double meaning to the first tape Jeff heard, where Jigsaw said they'll come face to face with the person who's responsible for the loss of his child. He didn't say which child, and gives more to Jeff's game over that he couldn't forgive and let live. Final body count? 10. This is surprisingly still a very good sequel. It did exactly what it was meant to do and be a very emotionally driven Saw film. It builds on from what happened before with Amanda's story, and concludes the story to several recurring characters like Carrie, as well as the film sets up a lot of stuff that could possibly be answered if they chose to make some more, which, spoiler, they did. Like, why was some of the traps unescapable? Who was the woman Jigsaw was fantasizing about? What was in Amanda's letter? Why did Jigsaw pour wax on a tape? But overall, the film does continue the high quality of the last two Saw films, while also giving very emotional moments. Overall, out of 10, 9.